Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. The honour has fallen to me to introduce Governor Jay Inslee. Governor Inslee was elected Governor of Washington State in 2012 and re-elected in 2016. To the governorship, Mr. Inslee served in the US Congress for more than a decade. A fifth-generation Washingtonian, he has no doubt seen Washington State grow into the home of one of the most vibrant and trade-driven economies in the United States. Governor Inslee's worldview is not limited to Washington State, however. He's been a leader in developing the Cascadia Innovation Corridor, a multi-stakeholder partnership between business, government, and academia in Washington and British Columbia, to highlight the strength, innovation that the region brings to the world economy. Governor Inslee has also been a tremendous proponent of issues critical to our community. He has emerged as a proponent for inclusive immigration and refugee politics. Advocate for responsible climate change policies in the United States and the World Economic Forum and at the United Nations. We're very, very grateful that the Governor has been so generous with his time today. Governor Inslee, we look forward to your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy. An honor and a delight to be here. I always like coming to this beautiful city. It's just one of the most gorgeous, well-planned, cosmopolitan, open communities in the world today. And so I always come to Vancouver because I always start every class I make in Vancouver reminding people that this year, 2017, is the 100th anniversary of the Seattle Metropolitans winning the Stanley Cup. So in that vein, and now to our Whitecap Sounders competition. I do have to point out that the Canucks won the Stanley Cup in 1914 as well, though. So I'm an bragging about athletic performance. And so, delight of this group I'm addressing. Jointly, you have contributed $30 to help people suffering and responding to our multiple challenges. And people, I think, are suspicious of true motivations might be. But in the absence of obnoxious comments, I'm just going to give you a pat back for your altruism. And it is, I have to tell you, I'm proud of my state that is in the forefront. I know we have many organizations from my state, PAC, Amazon, and which started from University of Washington, Tableau from our state. We're very proud of what our state has done in this regard. Particularly proud, I'll mention the Gates Foundation, in part because my daughter-in-law works for the Gates Foundation. And between Bill Gates and I, we have contributed $40,512 to international. I'm truly $512 contribution. We talked in the sense that the need for this organization is more apparent because the world is accelerating. Everything in life is accelerating. It is good. Technology is accelerating. It is good that the world is connected one to another is accelerating. I always like Martin Luther King's quote that we are tied in an inescapable network of mutuality, a common fabric that cannot be separated one from another. That's accelerating, but the challenges that are creating conditions that lead to famine and poverty and dislocation and refugees are all accelerating. Climate change is accelerating. Desertification, which is causing today massive migrations of humans, is accelerating. Extreme weather is accelerating. To some political dysfunction is accelerating. And so the growth organization is a real sign about those. And our policies will be more successful the more they were based on inclusion rather than exclusion. We know we work together, we can have an exponential increase in our effectiveness, particularly when we embrace the power of technology. So, things about believes is helping in this regard. In the way you work with your, I want to talk about first, talent, second, connectivity, innovation, and all three pillars of what we believe in the state of Washington that I think are applicable to you. We think that anything we can do in the state of Washington is to develop homegrown talent, to develop capital. In the reason I believe that is that in today's economy, in today's world, talent is the number one resource of any. We for assets, for oil and gas and coal, we for intellectual talent, and we on that. And I'm proud to make some major improvements in that. We increase in our public system in the history of state of Washington in the last 5 years. I'm proud to now say that every child has access to full-day kindergarten in the state of Washington. I'm proud to expand our access to childhood education. I'm happy that we're increasing our graduation rates, including in the subsets of the most challenged parts of our educational demographics, including kids of poverty and kids of color. Increasing access to computer science in our programs to generate those computer scientists and coders to do good work so they can help you. I'm proud that 2 weeks from now, I'm going to swim with a group of about 50 leaders to look at what they do to get a program so we have a career technical education program that is best in the country. And it's time to stop telling our kids, if you don't have a full degree, you're a failure. In fact, you can be a success in many, many careers. And it is my intent for Washington State to have a technical education program through apprenticeships in America. And I look forward to accomplishing that. So on intellectual talent as a resource, and I'm excited about that because I really do believe it's the best thing anything you can do in public service. That is the wellspring for improvement both in our economy and in our cultures and communities. And so we have, every time there's been a decision whether to close ourselves off and think of the world from a native standpoint or open ourselves to increasing connectivity, we set on the side of openness and tolerance and connectivity. And we believe that is a great strategy for economic development as well as a strategy for improvement in your culture. Look, Washington State. Our state has GDP growth that is twice the national average. We've got 300,000 jobs, and there's kind of a test case of what happens when you state, connections across the world. I'll tell you what happened. CNBC just did an evaluation of the best place to do business in the United States. You know what they found? The number one place to do business in the United States is the state of Washington, and I'm proud of that. And it is because of our success that we have an open state. So that when I was in the state of Washington, this Dr. Allah, he was scheduled that night to go to a organization event. Melinda Gates was one of the sponsors, and he is a World Health Organization like Rockstar, and he was coming to address this big conference of World Health Organizations, and he was by this backward-thinking policy, and fortunately we got in time so that he could address this group. That's the kind of difference an open policy has to make. I was in residence last week with a woman who's the director of the nursing program at the University of Washington Medical School. She might leave the country because of this, because her kid, she was born in Iran, and her in Sweden, and her kids have been coming to the United States. One's a lawyer, and I think one's a computer scientist. And she may not have been able to continue working at the University of Washington. This has real consequences. And I believe that it would be a move to deny of our businesses to grow as well. Because I'll tell you, when you go into a biotech company in Seattle, or you back labs at Microsoft, you will see people who are born in some other place who are helping the economy of the state of Washington. And when those people come here to build businesses, it doesn't just help the technologists, the computer scientists. Look, my son's a home builder in Kansas County. He's houses today swinging a hammer for people to develop businesses because of this openness policy. This is a development strategy, and we to continue to win these battles. The third after talent and connectivity is innovation. And the ways that we want to foster innovation. And I without, as governor of Washington, look for some way to foster innovation. Just the other day, talking about the development of autonomous vehicles. We look at the autonomous vehicle industry as an industry that we want to be one of our pillars of economic growth in the state of Washington. So when it came time to consider the approach, we decided to take kind of a light touch from a regulatory approach because we want to induce these new businesses to come into the state of Washington and try to develop this industry. Well, as a result, in part result of that, we now have 20 companies in Washington state who have research that is implicit or necessary to develop the autonomous vehicle. There was just a company called Ecodyne in Belgium the other day. They're developing this radar system. It's pretty amazing. Radar has the advantage it can look through sleet and fog and snow to be able to identify obstructions. So we're growing this industry like crazy, in part because we have a focus on whenever we think of a policy to do something to help spur innovation. We Amazon and doing work in conjunction with all the NGOs and on clean energy, and I want to take just a moment to talk about clean energy. When you think about the challenges the world community is having that your organizations address, climate change has to be right at the forefront. There was just a report the other day, the GAO came out yesterday, about how much the U.S. has spent addressing the increasing rate of extreme weather events. It's something like, I don't know, it was 35 or 350 billion, I don't know what the number was, but it was huge, 350, thank you very much. And because we know that we're having increasing huge precipitation events, we know these forest fires are eating us alive. Look, climate change is not an abstraction. It's not a graph. It's not a number of parts per million to me, although I've studied this for almost 2 decades now. It's looking in the eyes of a woman in Wenatchee, Washington, standing next to her smoldering ashes that was her home and seeing the salty tears. Climate change is salty tears to me in Wenatchee, Washington. It's a real thing. And we know that it's around the globe. millions of people today are on the move in northern Africa because of aridity. There's just no question about this, and desertification. And that's happening across the world today. And it will accelerate, frankly, even if we stopped any CO2 emissions today, that process is going to continue. And we know that that accelerates the biological vectors that are so dangerous, because now we know mosquitoes are moving north. I was in a major health organization, actually in Minneapolis a few months ago. I was looking at their big board, their big, huge board, probably designed in Redmond. And it was showing the progression of mosquito habitat that carries the Zika virus and West Nile virus, and it's moving north fast. And think about the fact that we've had to tell people, I believe it was in Florida for the first time, if you're a pregnant woman, you need to be concerned about the Zika virus. This is a real thing in real time that is happening across the globe. And we can do some things of adaptation, but we cannot depend on adaptation. We cannot run up the white flag of surrender to carbon dioxide and methane. We must fight it, and we will fight it. So I'm proud that within 30 hours of the president retreating and running up the white flag of surrender and retreating from the Paris agreement, within 36 hours, the state of Washington and California and New York, we set up what we call the United States Climate Alliance. These are 15 states. These 15 states represent 40% of the United States economy. It's not a small group. If we are a nation, and I'm not suggesting that at the moment, economy in the world today. With, and I'm going to borrow Jerry Brown and Kate Brown and Terry McCall of Virginia in a couple weeks, and we're going to community knows, don't give up on us. We're with you. We will climate change. It is and I do believe it is our destiny to do so, and I do believe it's my state's destiny to grow our economy like crazy by doing it, because this is an economic opportunity. This is both the world's biggest environmental challenge in human history, and is probably the world's largest opportunity for economic growth to move from a carbon-based economy to a decarbonized economy. Washington shines whenever we have a technological innovation like this, and we're shining right now. We're making jobs like the bushel full. We're the world's largest manufacturer of carbon fiber that goes into electric cars in the world today. It's in Moses Lake, Washington. The world's largest vanadium battery to allow solar and wind energy to thrive is in Mukilteo, Washington. One of the most effective solar panels made in the world today is made in Bellingham, Washington. This is an economic opportunity, and I believe we're going to succeed. Now, this corridor here between Seattle and kind of Portland and Vancouver, British Columbia, is pivotal to success of that and your success as well. And we really believe the Cascade Innovation Corridor can thrive economically to seize these economic opportunities. So I'm really excited that this year we've started our research in doing a scoping program to look what a fast train could look like on this fast corridor. I'm very excited about that prospect. We're excited to get seaplane service between Vancouver and Lake Union established, affectionately called the Nerd Bird, to carry a computer scientist back and forth across the border. We're excited about that. We're excited someday to have that train and that bird carry an NHL franchise, the Seattle Thunderbirds, to win a Stanley Cup again. And that would be a really nice competition to have across the border. So this is a great place to be talking about these issues, and I just want to conclude by a comment about the kind of days we're in. These are the kind of days where you can look at this as a little bit dark. A lot of anxiety out there, both about the global challenges that we face and the lack of leadership from some quarters. And the fact that no matter what we do in this room today, there's still going to be people who live in terrible conditions. But I like to quote Melinda Gates, who said, the world is full of what seem like intractable problems. Often we let that paralyze us. Instead, let it spur you to action. There are some people in the world that we can't help, but there are so many more that we can. And I really do believe that. And I believe that we ought to think of Winston Churchill as well. I got a Churchill quote on my desk that says, "Action this day." And there's another quote I'll leave on Winston Churchill's quote when he was during the Blitz, when London was afire and the fascists were destroying London. He would walk the streets to try to encourage people. And one time this lineman came up and says, "Prime Minister, I'm just so distressed." They said, "These are the darkest days." And he said, "These are not dark days, these are great days. Because even if the British Empire lasts 1,000 years, they will say these were our finest hours." And I do believe that's the case here. These are our finest hours, where even though we face unprecedented threats of climate change and social dysfunction in many parts of our world, they are our greatest days because we have the ability to use this new technology that you represent to really help these efforts. So I'm glad to be engaged with you, and I understand now I'm going to stand for easy questions and general criticism. So
that was really inspiring at some level for those of us that have seen some challenges over the last couple of months. And I'd be interested in your perspective on some of those challenges. I mean, you were just at the World Economic Forum, the Sustainable Development Summit in New York, and some UNGA meetings, and talking about climate change. The international system seems pretty challenged these days. What did you take away from those meetings as sort of the big key challenges that we're facing?
Well, I just had a thought, if you allow me, and I have not focused, tested, or talked to my staff about this thought. So if it's a really bad idea, just forget about it. But I'm just noting that the title is NetHope. Now, I think net meant network and technology and the internet, but it could also mean NetHope, meaning there's a lot of bad news out there, but there's NetHope. Okay, we can net these things out. There's more hope than there is fear. I really do believe that fits the circumstance we're in, because yeah, you have the world's largest economy pull out of Paris, right? But you have the fact that nobody else went with Donald Trump, right? So net, that's a really, really good sign. Net, you've got, like I said, this group, we represent almost half of the economy in the United States, and we're going full bore. Net, the response to President Trump pulling out is that China got more in. They made some incredible statements about closing down coal plants, which they've done, or not building anymore, and going to all electric vehicles by the next several decades. So net, that actually it's accelerated the world, it spurred the world to even greater investment. So I think there's good news there, and I got that when talking to the UN about that. And again, thank goodness for technology. Thank goodness for Elon Musk and the battery company that I talked to you about, because otherwise we'd have to go to a pre-industrial level living. We'd rather not have to do that. So I think that what we see is yet again being saved by technology. And by the way, people rightfully are optimistic about this. You look at solar power, the amount of solar power that we have generated is like 10 times more than we predicted we would have done 10 years ago. The price now of solar power is 2.5 cents electricity which is less unsubsidized, in some places less than the cost of coal-based energy. You cannot overstate how fast this curve is. And I heard Al Gore yesterday, I was just listening to an interview, and I thought he said something that was pretty appropriate. He said, we're having a transition that is the scope of the Industrial Revolution at the pace of the digital revolution. And I think he's right. So as a result of that, we should have NetHope, and we just got to have a little more help out of Washington, D.C. to close the deal.
Sure. No, I think, you know, there's so many countries, our members, we work in about 180 countries around the world. And some of them have been huge proponents of policies that we think are important, and some of them are challenged by. But I think the cooperation amongst ourselves and then frankly with other stakeholders has been important. How important do you see in the future that interaction between government and private sector and civil society in order for us to tackle some of these really tough problems?
I think they're productive, and I guess what I would say is none of them can totally succeed without the others. It really does have to be a team effort in so many ways. You know, if you're going to deliver a vaccine to a place where there's violence, you need some governments to do a halfway decent job to be able to get the vaccine delivered in a timely fashion. You need the foundations like PATH and others who are figuring out how you deliver a vaccine and come up with a system to keep it cool, which, I mean, I'm always so blown away what PATH does. So you need that technology, but you also need governments to clear the way so it doesn't get hijacked and held ransom. And so they do need to work in tandem. You think of climate change where private enterprise is doing the bulk of the work on this, but you need government to do the really early stage research that the private sector really can't finance. I mentioned this battery company that came out of University of Washington research that we helped finance with my Clean Energy Fund. You also need some policies to level the playing field. Look, right now, we have a very unlevel playing field where we allow you know, the fossil fuel industries to allow the atmosphere as a garbage dump in unlimited amounts for free. Well, as long as you allow that, it's like an inherent subsidy, which is a disadvantage, an unfair disadvantage against solar and wind and other powers. So you need government to sort of have the rules of the road where we don't abuse our mutual resources. So I guess what I'd say, they all got to work together, and where they do, things work. Look, I note the economies. It's interesting. The fastest growing economies in the United States are the ones that are working well together, government and business. So, like our state, where you're working together, not at cross purposes, you get the best economic growth. Yeah.
I want to thank you. I know you've got a very tight schedule. Thank you for coming and joining us today.
Thank you.
NetHope is proud to call Seattle home, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for bringing us here. Yeah.
We got that videotape, right? Then we'll fix this. And mine.
Yeah, I saw the little. But no, we've got it all taped.
Fantastic. Thank God for that.